everybody, Lord Tremendous here. Got another book review here for you. This one is a military sci-fi book called Dun Ringill by David Kantrowitz. I'm going to call him that because he's not here to stop me. So, Mr. Kantrowitz contacted me through Reddit, asked me to check out this book, and I was happy to do so. I got it on Kindle Unlimited with my subscription. However, for $1.99, you can get it in ebook format, and for $11, you can get it in the paperback. It is about 302 pages long. It was published October 28, 2018, and it is in the science fiction and military science fiction categories. This book was fun. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I didn't love it. I wasn't super in love with it or anything like that, but it does get its hooks into you, catches your attention, and holds it throughout the entire book. There's very few lulls, and the lulls that are in there add to the main story. There's not a whole bunch of deviation from the main story, and it's a solid little book. I enjoyed reading it. I really did. Spoiler free, the main character's name is Carthage, and he is a military individual. The year is 2118, and we've developed faster than light travel, and he's part of the Space Force, I guess, and he flies out on this ship to go to this planet where there's a situation, we'll say. And he is the security side of the crew. It's like a crew of 8. And when they get there to the planet, a sleeper agent pops up, and all sorts of shenanigans happens afterwards. The planet has a real issue. They were trying to open a wormhole using technology on the planet, and needless to say, that goes about as well as you would expect. And our main character here, Mr. Carthage, needs to put the planet back together again and then report back to Earth. It's an interesting story, to say the least, and how he does it is very militaristic. I believe Mr. Kantrowitz, the author of the story, is in the National Guard. I'm assuming Army. I don't know. Never met the guy. I've just checked out his author profile on Amazon, and I believe that's the case. And so he's got the military jargon down. He really does. The only issue that I have with this, and this is where I'm going to kind of start picking at the story a little bit, the main character is a Mary Sue, basically. He is a jack of all trades. Granted, the main character is your, cybernetic type of guy. I'll get more into that in the spoilers. But he's just good at everything. He excels at everything. He's a master tactician, a wonderful marksman. He's a pilot. He's a maintainer. He knows how all the machines work. He knows how to pilot all the machines. He knows how to work on all the machines. It's just everything that he needs to do, he can do. He doesn't run into any situation, in any situation really, that he can't handle. He is really bad at one thing, though, and that is human nature. Yeah, he doesn't see a lot of things coming from two of the story's bad guys. And it's a little frustrating because he's so good at everything that when he's bad at one thing, it's glaring. That's an issue I take with this character. The other issue that I take with this story overall is he runs into a lot of civilians. He gets to this planet. He's the only Space Force military. There's a planetary military, but it's more of a militia with military grade hardware. Every civilian that he runs into that helps him out and stuff like that, not only do they understand military jargon, hand signals, and everything else, but they use it. Like when they're on the radio, they use the military jargon for everything. They know what all the jargon means. They understand his hand signals. They're in combat. He recruits this girl, Siobhan, and she is literally working in this borderline Renaissance area repair shop because the planet is starting to lose their technology due to the anomalies that are occurring. And I'll get into that in the spoilers. I don't want to spoil too much because this really is a fun story. If you like military sci-fi, you're going to enjoy this book. She she's just a gunsmith, really. You know, she's not military. She's never been military. You don't get the feeling that her father was military. I think her father was like a scientist or something like that. You don't get that she's got a military background whatsoever, but man, as soon as she meets this guy, her latent, staff sergeant comes out, and she understands military jargon, she understands military tactics, she understands the hand signals. She's just like put the black makeup underneath her face, and she's good to go. I mean, there's no stopping her. If she was in basic, they'd have just handed her an M16 and dropped her off in hostile territory, said, "Go kill. There's nothing we can teach you." She gets under fire and just no prop, never been shot at before that the story lets you on to, and she just handles it. No issue whatsoever. Doesn't panic, doesn't get nervous. She actually, one comes close and she gets cut under her cheek, and she's just kind of like, "Huh, I ain't got time to bleed." It's just like, damn. So that's a little hard to swallow. The civilians, everybody talks military. Everybody understands military. Everybody knows military. And that eats at me a little bit, because that is full garbage right there. I mean, I know plenty of civilians that don't even know what FUBAR stands for, let alone, what a flanking maneuver is, or what defilé positions are, or anything. So it's hard for me to swallow that all these people know that. I mean, there's a doctor, for crying out loud, at one point that they run into, and she's on the radio just bellowing out military jargon and to the military members, and it's like, Jesus, just this whole planet should just be conscripted and they could take over the universe, because I've never been more impressed. The only person that ever panics in this story is a female military member of the planet's, I guess, army, navy, militia, whatever you want to call them. And that I'll get into the spoilers of that, but it's frustrating. It's a little too convenient. Carthage is like he's able to just do everything. There's no problem that like is a challenge for him at all. He walks through everything, and it's frustrating. I would have liked to see this guy challenge. It would be like watching, Vader take on younglings. Yeah, sure. After the first couple, it's like, all right, could we get another Jedi in here to put up a fight? Because this kind of sucks. I'm starting to feel bad. So yeah. But other than that, the story itself, why they're on the planet, what's going on with the planet, the author went the extra mile. Everything that he puts in his book, with the exception of the made up science fiction stuff, because there's plenty of that, and I like that, is research. Like at one point, he's taking 100,000 feet at 900 miles an hour, and he tells them they've only got an X amount of time before they're just squished, they're dead. And if you do the math, it all lines up. So it's not like he's just pulling stuff out of the air. He's done his homework, he's done his research. A lot of what he says in the book and stuff is accurate, and I respect that a lot, especially from a writer standpoint and a reader standpoint. He's not just slinging, garbage at me. He's telling me, truthful stuff. One of the issues I have with the book also is that it's the year 2118, and military hardware has not upgraded at all. They're still using, GAU 8s, there's something called a GAU 19. They're just, it's all solid state projectiles. It's a lot of projectile weaponry. Nobody uses missiles at all. They have them. They have them on the ships. They're talked about. They've got gunships with missiles and rockets on them, but they never fire one of them, and I can't understand that at all. The dogfights are a little Top Gun 1984, type of deal. So that's a little frustrating. I would have liked to see. I mean, if it's going to be a sci-fi one, especially the military one, let me see some futuristic weaponry. It doesn't have to be super crazy stuff, but the best I got were like defensive lasers that easily shot down missiles that were fired at them instantly. Like, it was just no threat. So I don't know. I know I'm nitpicking, but that's part of the review. I'm going to point out the pros and the cons. Also, when it comes to like the grammar and everything like that, no issue, no misspellings that I noticed or anything of the sort. I don't like that none of the paragraphs are tabbed, indented, that first sentence or whatever. That's frustrating as hell to me. Although I don't know if it's like an English rule or if it's just like an artistic thing, but I thought it was kind of like, yeah, if you're going to start a new paragraph, you should tab it over. I don't know. That frustrates me a bit. And also, the author has a penchant for using obscure words in order to, I don't know, show off his vocabulary a little bit. Just throwing it out there. If you're writing a book for mass consumption, use easily accessible words for your reader. Not everybody is going to know what emesis is, which is a 19th century way of saying vomit. Just say vomit. You're not impressing anybody with your weird, obscured Latin. Just use the basic words so that it does, because it stops the story. It reads pretty well. The story reads well. It's a pretty fluid read. It gets a little wordy here and there, but not so bad that it hurts it. But when you run into a word like that, and you have to stop and look it up to figure out what the hell the author's trying to tell you, and it turns out that it's just a fancy, old-fashioned word for vomit, you kind of get irritated. It's not necessary. It does not add anything to the story. Don't do it. Or, I guess, who the hell am I? Just please don't do it. How about that? But all in all, I got to give this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the main character. I found myself, after all was said and done, as much as it irritated me that a guy was running around with a cape and tights on the whole time, because basically he was Superman in military form, he was still like, the personality of the guy was cool. It's like, what, if I saw this guy in a bar, I'd buy him a beer. Just it'd be fun to hang out and drink with this guy. So I enjoyed it. The what's going on the planet, it's a unique situation, and I like the way the author presents it. I like the way you really do feel like the planet is in peril. Is this a super in-depth story that's going to have 8 different spin-offs? Probably not. It sort of sets itself up for a sequel in the end. It's a very soft one. It could be an easy end, one-off story, and you still wouldn't feel like you're missing anything. It wraps itself up nicely in the end, and I enjoyed it. 4 stars out of 5. I'm going to play a quick ad, and then we're going to get into the spoiler section, so buckle up. Hey all, so everybody knows that just finishing a book isn't the entire battle. You gotta have an editor, otherwise there's a good chance your book is gonna be awful. So if you're looking for one, my editor, elatoria at Fiverr.com, is available for a very good price. If you want, go check her out. Spoilers are coming next, so if you're still here when the music stops, that's on you. All right, you're still here, so let's get to it. So the story starts off, and Carthage is a security guy that's assigned to this spaceship called the Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman. The author actually makes a lot of pop culture references and stuff in there. The cake is a lie, the Flying Dutchman, just little things like that. The dude's a gamer, and you can tell. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm a gamer too, so it touched me in a good way. But anyway, so he's on this spaceship. He's got like 6 or 7 other people on the ship with him. He's a security guy, and of course, he got all their specialists in there. When they get to this planet, one of the guys on the ship turns out to be a sleeper agent. What irritates me a little bit about this situation is that Carthage is this super soldier. He's called Advanced Infantryman, which is basically AI for short, which is clever in my opinion. But he's basically a vat-grown human that the first year of his life, he learns how to do all the human-y stuff like walk, talk, and whatever. And then after that, he spends the next 2 years, 3 years learning how to fight, learning how to soldier and stuff like that. And then he serves for 10 years. And then after that, he becomes basically a hired out merc. And that's where he's at now. In the longevity type thing, he's like 11 years old, but he's in a 30-year-old's body. If that follows. So I like that little sci-fi aspect. He's a vat-grown soldier, but after a decade, they retire him for some reason. I wish that it would have explained that a little bit better. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put all that investment into something when they only get a decade out of them, whereas you can get 2 decades out of people that are regular made on Earth now. So I don't really understand how that turnover works. I wish the author would have gone into that a little bit more, or just done to 20 years, because usually it's 20 and done. Maybe it's a National Guard thing, maybe I'm looking into it too much, but that's just where I felt. So they arrive in orbit of this planet called Sky, and they're doing their preliminary checks. And of course, they find out this planet is totally screwed up because of the experimentation stuff that they were doing there. One of the guys gets activated on his ship, goes into Sky's room, and is able to acquire his bayonet. And then he guts everybody in the ship. What bothers me about this situation, number one, is that Carthage, who's this super soldier who excels at every aspect of soldiering, doesn't lock his door. Yeah, the guy, Holland is his name, the guy that turned on, sure, maybe whoever turned him over gave him access to a whole ship. That's a good possibility, but I'm sorry, there's got to be something in his 10 years of soldiering, of super soldiering, that he had to go, you know what? I'm the only one on this ship with weapons. I should really keep him secure. But he didn't. So the Holland guy is able to kill every member of the crew with a big knife, basically. Nobody seems to fight back, and that irks me a little bit too. Everybody just kind of goes, well, aim for the soft spot. I don't want to limp away from this. And he kills them all. Somehow Carthage is aware of all of this. He grabs his rifle and ends up just ventilating Holland all over the cockpit, and then proceeds to crash land on this planet. He survives, no problem. It kind of yada yada yadas over that, but it's a sci-fi book, sure. Super soldier, airbags, whatever. He climbs out completely unharmed. A little like, but, in true Schwarzenegger form, he falls out of the ship and is fine. He gets his gear, he's good to go, and he starts hiking towards the closest town. As he's hiking towards the town, he basically passes through this anomaly, and this planet is riddled with these anomalies, or what they're called. And it's because on the planet, years ago on the planet, they tried to open a wormhole. They tried to use the planet's positioning and some, yada yada technology to open a wormhole so that they could space travel farther than they've ever been before. It seems like a smart move. I get why they would do it. I have no problem with it. Problem is, they decided to use a planet that was already colonized instead of just moving the people off, or, hey, we're going to do some twisted stuff down here. Be ready. Nope, they just kind of turn on the machine, and of course, one of their variables was variating, and it opens up all sorts of no. These anomalies basically warp time. Some of them let aliens and weird, creepy, interdimensional creatures into our planet, but they aren't ever really a threat. I mean, you get the feeling that they could be a threat, but they never really are. They're easily shot. They kind of lemming into the barrel of a weapon. They never really get anywhere close to hurting anybody. It's a weird kind of problem to have because it's never really an issue for the main character. So anyway, he's leaving the ship and he's walking towards this main town. It's going to take him like 3-4 days to get there. He passes through the anomaly with, unknowing, and next thing he knows, he get a little bit of a headache, and he's all of a sudden, it's like 6 hours have advanced, and he's 50 miles closer to his destination. That was stupid convenient, considering these anomalies have been just murking and sticking these people in these weird time-lapse prisons and stuff. You run into it later on. Everyone else that goes into one of these anomalies or enters into these anomalies is either dead or no longer in our dimension. The anomaly that Carthage walks through conveniences him 2 days and 50 miles of walking. Okay, sure. He rolled the die and rolled a natural 20. It happens, but I was it was like, okay, come on, let's see a little bit. This guy has already survived, espionage, a spaceship crash landing, and now he passed through an anomaly, getting a mild headache, which went away instantly after taking 2 or 3 days, and 50 miles off of his walking time. I wish I had luck that bad. You know what I mean? So he gets to the town, and the first person he runs into is this girl, Siobhan, and she's our gunsmith repair girl that's been living on this planet for 20 years after what they call, she was 5 years old when it happened, when they tried to open the wormhole, and what they call it is the wave, and it was a wave of energy that washed over the planet that basically took them out of the time stream and put anomalies all over the planet, which kill people. Like, they age them or they take them out of our dimension. It never really explains exactly what happens. You see a few things, but for the most part, all sorts of crazy sci-fi, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff. Doctor Who level crap. So I'm on board. I'm like, okay, that's actually cool. So far, the only one we've encountered is super convenient, but I guess the rest of them suck. But he talks with Siobhan for a little while, and she's like super into it, helping this guy out. She doesn't know him, doesn't really know what's going on. She's lived on this planet for 20 years, and that's when he discovers that while only 5 weeks outside have passed for him, 20 years has passed on this planet because of the anomalies, a time warp thing that's going on. So they figured out for every day they spend on the planet, 200 days passes outside of the planet because of the whole wormhole anomalies shish kebab. Don't worry about that though, because that whole plot thing seems to go away because that's never really an issue again. Even when he gets off the planet later on, like it's been weeks and I don't know, it never makes any real mention of time change or anything outside. So I don't know what's going on. So anyway, he goes and decides that he's got to figure out what happened on this planet and how to fix it because that's his mission. Get on this planet and fix whatever happened. I mean, that would have been doable, I think, if his original flight crew had been there. But since they're all dead and he's literally just a grunt, how is he going to do this? Well, don't worry, because everybody that he runs into is useful to do this, and it's kind of frustrating. He figures out with his PDA that he can detect these anomalies. Okay, the people that have lived here 20 years have not figured this out, so all their towns have kind of secluded themselves into these. Basically, they're turning into dark age type towns. They're not quite there yet. They're more like Renaissance age, but they're getting there. And because after 20 years, all the technology is breaking down and everything. But this guy figures out in less than a day how to make his PDA detect these anomalies that he has very little information about. Again, convenience is convenient, but it is what it is. So it pushes forward. He decides, since he can navigate using the PDA and he's got an abundance of PDAs because his crew is dead, him and this girl decide to go out and not only map out some of the anomalies, but get to the next town and figure out if they can't help them, and then the next town after that, and yada, 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 until they find the source of the anomaly, which is done Ringill, and save the day. Do whatever it takes to stop all this. So they get to the next town after using the PDAs to avoid anomalies. They discover that the anomalies seem to warp time and stuff like that. Luckily for Carthage, the one he passed through was just a warp portal that was convenient. But yeah, all the other ones are super deadly. They get to the next town, and they're getting to the next town, and as they get to the next town, they run into a group of bad guys, these Knights of Aberdeen. Basically, think of them as paladins with a message from God, a mission from God, and they're just scumbag mercs. There's no other way to put it. They're the bad guy element. They're the bad guy military guys. Well, they run into these guys. There are like 6 or 7 of them that they run into. Carthage eats them alive. I mean, there's no stopping this guy. He walks through these 6 or 7 guys. Granted, Siobhan, his little buddy, she helps out. She kills one. But he kills out all the rest. They kind of yada, yada, yada it. But yeah, he kills the rest, no problem. Then they go into this watchtower where they find, it's a cement factory or whatever. They're able to get into the cement factory and find the one remaining bad guy inside. This guy, Sav, or whatever his name is. And he tells them that he's a tech guy. Listen, I'm just a tech guy. You took out all the guards. I'm a knight, but, whatever. I've been here 5-6 years. We haven't been resupplied because nobody can travel. Whatever you want, I'm on board. And they just kind of, they don't trust him, but they're really nice to him. Way over the top, well, that's fine. We just killed your 6 buddies, and I'm sure you, after spending half a decade with them, have no tight bonds with them whatsoever, because you say you don't. So, yeah, we'll trust you. And they kind of use him as a pack mule. And he's carrying all their extra weapons, basically the weapons from the guys that they killed. Which is fine. They do take all the ammo out of them and everything like that, but they give them all the gear, all the extra weapons and stuff. It just, okay, that's a lot of trust to give somebody that you probably would have been better off putting a bullet in their head. And but yeah, they go ahead and they trundle back to town, and they meet this new town, Perth. And when they get to that town, they meet the mayor, and the mayor is really like, "Oh, okay, it's been 20 years, and one guy made it. Yeah, sure, I buy your story, and everything's cool. Here's all the help." And they use that help to get an airship, because again, Carthage is he's a master of all trades. So he finds an airship, a transport basically, with guns on it and everything that they need, and he turns it on after 20 years of sitting on a tarmac. It starts up, and yeah, there's some minor things wrong with it. It takes him a couple of days to fix it. Literally 48 hours to repair this thing, get the guns working. There's some minor problems. One of the fuel intakes is working at 10%, but a quick restart of the engines mid-flight fixes it. No problem. Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? That worked. I'm going to let you know right now from experience that if you leave a military aircraft sitting on the tarmac for a week, that son of a gun is going to be on fire, okay? They break down for all the reasons. And I know what you're saying, futuristic technology, maybe it's better, and I'll grant you that. I will, 100%. However, the fact that this guy comes in and fixes this stuff in a couple of days when people that were living on this planet for 20 years couldn't figure it out, didn't even bother to try to figure it out, let alone get the weapons off of this thing. Ugh. That's why this book isn't a 5-star. There's a lot of issues I take with this book that kind of eat at me a little bit, just with the convenience being so convenient. However, that all being said, we get into the Knights, and he's, of course, able to use the transport. The transport just so happens to have this magical Doppler device on it that, while Doppler usually needs a satellite signal, and it can't get a satellite signal because there are no satellites in orbit, it still works, and they're able to use it in order to detect the anomalies while they're flying around. Again, he figures this out in a day, when these people on the planet couldn't figure it out in 2 decades. So honestly, Darwin says everyone on this planet should probably die. It's a little frustrating. Again, Superman came to their planet and started really figuring stuff out. So they use this transport to go across the ocean to get to the next town, and the next city is basically wiped off the face of the planet. However, just outside the old boundaries of this old city that is no longer there, there's a guy that used to work at the Ringill plant, which is the center, which is ground zero for where the wormhole experiment occurred, and he's more than willing to help him out. He takes him to Ringill, and after many, many very, very easy fights for Carthage, they're able to get inside and start working their magic to reverse everything that's not reverse everything that's happening, but stop the anomalies. Basically, shut down the wormhole generator so that it doesn't so that it doesn't keep screwing this planet up and everything. Puts it back in its proper time stream. How they go about doing all that is actually very, very cool. And this is where the book really excels. The main character is Superman. The civilians that he runs into all know military jargon, all are, combat veterans. They just don't realize it and are tough as nails. There's a lot of convenience in this book, but the plot, the problem, and how they solve it is where this book excels, and it's super great. It's what brought it from a 3-star to a 4-star for me, because that's what gripped me. There's a ship that's stuck in a time anomaly, and they study it. And they've got the old scientist guy that was with the Ringill people, and he's like, or Ringill people anyway, and he's like, let me throw a theory out here. This might work to get this ship out of there. If we can get this ship out of there, the captain should be on our side because of their past allegiances and everything like that, and we could really use that edge in order to get these knights off our back and blah blah blah. And how they go about doing it is very cool. I enjoyed that. I thought it was neat. I thought that then the captain comes along, and the captain is realistic. She wants to help, but at the same time, she's loyal to her crew, and she knows that her people have just lost 2 decades. If their families are still around, if they're still their families, because let's be honest, they they want to go, and she wants to get him back to Earth and stuff. She wants to get him the hell off this planet. With her ship, she could do that. So, Carthage has to convince her to stick around just long enough to get this done. And I like that. I like that realism. I like that human element. The author nails it here. Once they get everything on board there, how they go about fixing the anomalies and everything like that, and correcting what's happening on the planet. Not correcting, I apologize. Stopping what's happening on the planet is again clever. It's fun. It's interesting. It keeps your attention. Before I knew it, I had been reading for 3 hours, and I didn't feel like it was wasted time. I was very happy about that. And in the end, obviously, they're able to do it, but it's not one of those, Superman rewrites, everything goes back to the way it was before the anomaly. All the bad stuff still happened at the end of the book. All the city is still missing, all the people are still dead, the time has passed and everything like that, but it's not happening anymore. The world is back in the proper dimension / time stream, the anomalies have gone away, and they've blown up the Ringill place that was ground zero for the wormhole anomalies. It's cool. I like that. I like the no bullshit. I like the no the meat of the plot is excellent, and it's fun. And in the end, when it's all said and done and it's over and things are kind of getting wrapped up, all the questions that you had throughout the story. Like, one of my biggest questions was, if somebody was going to put a sleeper agent on his ship in the very beginning, why wouldn't it be him? Turns out it was him. It was him and this other guy, Holland. They were able to get 2 people on ship. Holland's little brain device activated, Carthage's didn't. And that's why Carthage was able to resist and do all these things. So that's why, Carthage was supposed to be their double agent, one of their double agents, and it just didn't work out. And I like that, like a short circuit type of thing is what caused that thing to stop. Otherwise, this would have been a really short book. I enjoyed that. It was clever. It wasn't your typical, they met in a tavern and saved the world type of thing. And there's a lot of humor in the book. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of banter that I really appreciate, especially when the Sky's military get involved and start working with Carthage. The military banter back and forth, it's flawless. It's perfect. It's wonderful, and the author really captures that foxhole humor type of thing, and I enjoy that a lot. It's a good time. So overall, 4 out of 5 stars, because while this book does have a convenience problem, it does definitely have a convenience problem. And I don't like the way the civilians all know military jargon. I think it would have been a lot better if the civilians kept getting confused, maybe even killed, because he throws his fist up to halt and they all just kind of look at him and keep walking like, the hell are you doing? And then get blown away or something, or give up their position. I think it would have been more interesting to see Carthage get frustrated because he's not dealing with disciplined, military trained individuals. He's dealing with civilians who don't know any better, and how he would have adapted to that as opposed to everybody just doing whatever he says. That would have made this story much better, in my opinion. Also, some of the word choices that the author uses, while not often, can be frustrating. He uses a lot of really obscure vocabulary. Not a lot, but it happens semi-frequently in the book, and it's frustrating. While the book does read pretty smooth, it's frustrating when you have to stop in order to get the definition of some word you haven't heard because it's been out of use for 300 years. It's like, hey, keep it in the 20th century and above. There's no reason to use a fancy word for vomit. There's just not. Yeah. Those are my issues, but all in all, like I said, if you're a fan of military science fiction, you're going to enjoy this book a lot. 4 out of 5 stars, and the author's written a lot of other books too, so if you like this one, you'll be able to keep up with... I think he's got a series going. I haven't read them or anything like that, so I can't say if they're good or not, but judging off of this book, I think if they're on par with this one, I think that if you read and enjoy this one, you would enjoy those two. I think it'd be a safe bet. That's going to do it, though. That's it for this book review. As always, though, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below. If you're interested in reading this book, the link to it will be in the description. And as always, thanks.